I love Melissa Joan Hart, I love Christmas films, and I really love Lifetime Christmas films. So Dear Christmas definitely had a lot going for it. There was a lot about this that I was really looking forward to. And I'm really pleased to say that I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I want to praise it for doing one thing really well. I'll talk more about the film in general in a moment, but it's about a woman called Natalie who has a podcast. It's a love-based podcast, and there are a lot of films from Lifetime, from Hallmark, a lot of films doing similar things, where the protagonist has a podcast, and they spend so much time showing us the podcast. And while it's important to do that a little bit, so that we get a deeper understanding of the person's work or what their feelings are like, it's a great way for the podcaster to share their feelings. Some of them spend so much time delivering podcast script that it feels like the writer of the film wishes they had a best-selling podcast and they were writing the script for it. It's like when a novelist, I'm speaking as a writer, puts a poem that the protagonist has written in the novel. And you know that they spent time working on that poem because they wanted to write a poem, not because it was important to the narrative. And so many films get this wrong with podcasts that we spend so much time just listening to the protagonist delivering their podcast when it doesn't add information or move the narrative forward. Dear Christmas is an exception. It does it so well. We have just enough time spent on the podcast that we don't forget about it, that it didn't just feel like padding, but not so much that it stopped the narrative moving or just felt like the writer was going off on one because they want a podcast. So needless to say, it had a lot going for it, and it worked very well. It was released in 2020, directed by Emily Moss Wilson, written by Juliet, Giglio, and Keith Giglio, and we have Melissa Joan Hart as Natalie. We also have Jason Priestley as the classic romantic lead love interest, Chris Massey, also known as Mr. Christmas. And Natalie is on her way to her parents' house for Christmas, and she gets a flat tire, and that's how she meets Chris Massey. And then they begin to see a lot of each other. And it turns out that they actually knew each other in the past, though Natalie couldn't quite remember it to begin with. And in true Christmas rom-com style, as the days creep closer to Christmas, the friendship and potential romance between them begins to blossom and flourish. Will they realise they're meant to be together, or will they go their separate ways? I'm obviously not going to say what happens, but I really did thoroughly enjoy this. I thought it was beautifully done, very festive, visually stunning. Literally, maybe not literally, but virtually every scene had green or red in it. In some cases, both. Definitely a lot of vibrant, bright greens and a lot of very festive, beautiful, deep red colours, and it definitely felt Christmassy. It was very festive. It was an absolute delight to watch. And the character of Natalie, I thought she was great. She was very likeable. She had her flaws, but she wasn't irritating, and she wasn't so perfect that she was unbelievable. That may seem like an obvious thing to say, but there are some films like this where the protagonist does go one way or the other. Natalie was very well rounded, very interesting. We got just enough glimmer of her childhood to understand what her life was like when she originally knew Chris, but not so much that it felt like it was all just going back into the past for the sake of it. It's beautifully done. There are a lot of sugar cookies. It will make you hungry. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. If you are a fan of Christmas rom-coms, Lifetime films, or anything else that Hartbreak has done, it is a Hartbreak production, of course, I think you'll really enjoy it. I had a lot of high hope for Dear Christmas, and I'm relieved to say that it definitely did deliver.